Good morning, everyone. So we are leaving Frómista and headed for, now that I've read the guidebook, Carrión de los Condes. Carrión in Spanish doesn't mean what it means in English, I've learned, which in English is carrion. Condes is counts, and that's where we're headed. I will say we stayed in Frómista. It's a larger village than most of the ones we've been in. I mean, we've been going villages and cities. So the cities would be like Pamplona, Logroño, Burgos, and everything else has been smaller. This one was a little bit more in between, a little bit larger. And I'm not promoting anything on this video, but I have to mention this place just because it was an oasis after a lot of the places we stayed. It was called 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 And again, we're in May 2024, but you could tell it's been maybe 1 or 2 years recently renovated. Air conditioning, wading pool to put your feet in, cold, great breakfast, organized, clean, huge bed, great sheet. It was like a paradise. We met an American couple there that we'd seen on the trail. We'd lost track of them, and they got there and they stayed an extra night to recover because it was just a little spot of paradise. So if you do the booking the way we did, where you have a company book everything in advance, do what we did to try to avoid little missteps, and check online all of the hotels. It's a pain in the butt because you're talking about 35 days. So 35 days, you got to kind of Google the location, look at photos and everything. And sometimes those can be deceiving, but at least get a sense of where you're going. This is one that we remember looking at in the States and thought that the pictures were too good to be true, and they weren't. So I guess it's a shout out to 𝗥𝗢𝗡𝗢𝗔𝗟 Mayor, because we just had a great stay there, very restful, and we're feeling really rejuvenated. And thankfully, today's a short day, only 18 miles to Carrión. Oh, kilometers. Ooh, even better. 18 kilometers, which is like 12 miles to Carrión de los Condes. There are 2 routes to take today. There's a fork in the road. We haven't reached it yet, but just outside of town, because most of it is going to be what we're doing right now. I'll flip the camera. So most of it is going to be this kind of road, pavement, path, whatever you will, next to a small kind of county road is what we'd call it in the States, which isn't bad. Not a lot of traffic and pretty scenery, but you're going along the road. We're going to come up here in a second to a fork where you can go to the right, which would be a little bit to the north, and that's a more scenic route. However, that scenic route, because it's off of this path, takes you about 3 more kilometers, because you go out about a half a kilometer to get to it, and then it slightly wends away from this path, and so at the end it's about 1.7 kilometers to reconnect. So you're adding an additional 3 kilometers on an 18K day is 21. Normally, both of us, I think, would opt for that just because we like pretty, but my shin is still not at 100%, and I've got about 4 days to recover before we hit Astorga. Is it 4 days? It's more than that.
León.
4 days to León and 6 or 7 to Astorga. And then the mountains start. Even more?
No.
Something like that. Anyway, mountains are coming, and uphill, downhill. So I've got to get as much rest as I can and recovery to prepare for that. So 3K is 3K. So we're going to take the path more traveled today, and it may not be as pretty, but it'll get us there. More soon. So one of the things that friends and family that are communicating with us while we're doing this have asked me about is if we're losing weight, because of course we're walking upwards of a half marathon a day, which is a lot of additional exercise. I think yes is the answer, although we haven't stayed anywhere that's actually had a scale to weigh ourselves. I can tell you, before we left Madrid, I weighed myself, and I think I've got a shot of it. I was right at 80 kilos, And I know, I mean, we're wearing the same clothes almost every day. So I can tell that my shorts are fitting a little bit better around the waistline. So I know I am losing. On average, according to the Apple Watch, I'm burning about 1,200 to 1,500 calories a day, depending. Depending on how far we walk. So there is that, and what I am going to do is at the end of this thing, do another weigh-in, and we'll see what's happened. I can also tell you just from the way we're doing it, I mean, everyone does this differently. I'm not drinking any alcohol on the trip, so no beer, wine, which is an additional obvious calorie deficit based compared to usual living. And I'm eating about the same. Wouldn't you say, Raquel, about the same quantity as normal? The only difference is that I'm having desserts most days. But I will also say the desserts here are good, but they're not as sugary as in the US. So they have like great cheesecake I've had in several places, which is very typical of this part of Spain. But it's not as sugary. They put like blueberry jam or strawberry on top. The other typical desserts here, there's one called 𝗪𝗓𝗓 de Santiago, Santiago tart. You may see it on the menus in English, which is like an almond-based cake, gluten-free for those who care about that. And that's, again, tasty, but light in sugar. And then the other very popular thing in this, especially in the north, is something called cuajada, C-U-A-J-A-D-A. And that is basically, if you remember Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet eating her curds and whey. Well, it's curds, which as a kid I always thought sounded like kind of a gross thing, but it's not. It's basically a step in the process of making cheese. But they don't go all the way through, you know, so it's like step one, they stop, and that's a dessert that you eat with a little bit of honey. It's relatively low calorie. I think we saw a portion is about 150 calories, and really, really tasty, especially with a little bit of honey on it. And very, you can see, we're not on the scenic route, so you can hear all the traffic, but very tasty. So that's a little bit of the food stuff. And again, like I said, I'll weigh in at the end and we'll see what's happened. But I can tell you, just based on fit of clothing, that I am losing weight doing this thing. Buen camino. This is Meseta, and you can see the wheat here is already starting to turn. They'll be harvesting it soon. In fact, we passed a couple of fields they already have. And so the scenic route is to the right a little, behind that hill, along the river. But probably the same view, just a little less noise, like these guys that are passing relatively regularly. So an uneventful day, short walk, and this is what you're looking at in terms of surface.